have Janie here on the left. She leads the new neighborhood association, Singleton United and Singleton Unidos. She's passionate about empowering her community and serves as a fighting voice against environmental racism. And in September 2021, Janie and her group launched the GAFs Gotta Go, GAF Vete Ya campaign, whose mission is to remove Dallas County's largest sulfur dioxide and particulate matter 2.5 polluter, the GAF asphalt shingles manufacturer, from the heart of our neighborhood. Janie is determined to help improve the health of her community, and that starts with seeking environmental justice, and it starts with her leading the fight for clean air to breathe. In the center, we have Judge Luis Sepulveda. He was raised in West Dallas and is a longtime environmental justice activist in West Dallas and founded the West Dallas Coalition for Environmental Justice in 1989 while working to get the Murph Metals RSR lead smelter shut down in the surrounding area and neighborhoods in West Dallas, remediated in the 1980s and 90s. Along with faithfully serving his community through organizational drives, baseball teams, and other activities for the youth, he also served for over a decade as a Dallas County Justice of the Peace from 2000 to 2010, covering a wide variety of cases. And last but not least, we have Laura Quintero. Laura is a Dallas native with roots in Oak Cliff. She's in her 6th year of teaching. She has taught architecture and is currently teaching interior design at Dallas ISD. She incorporates social justice topics into her curriculum and encourages her students to take up space and become advocates for themselves and their community. She is currently working on her master's in urban planning at UTA and hopes to continue helping students and communities like Singleton United in their efforts for social and environmental justice. And she serves as a coalition member for Singleton United. All right, let's hear it up for our panel as well. All right, so the way our panel will run today is we'll start off with a few remarks, opening remarks from Janie, talking about the GAFs Gotta Go campaign and kind of the current struggle and fight for environmental justice in West Dallas. And then we'll break out into a panel discussion. We'll cover some of the history of the fight for environmental justice in West Dallas, some of the ways you can get involved, some of the ways we build coalitions to fight for environmental justice, and calls for action as we move forward. So Janie, take it away.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning and learning more about our plight. Really appreciate everybody's time and interest and attention. My name is Janie, as Colin mentioned. We started Singleton United in August of last year. And really what happened was there's a lot of neighbors in the community who had similar shared interest of wanting to fight the air pollution. It's really unfortunate that we can't just open our windows in the morning and enjoy fresh air, or take our children outside at any time of the day to play. So we had similar complaints about this. Some have more health impacts, where the smell from this GAF factory, it's an asphalt shingles manufacturer that's right in the heart of our community. You know, the smell of it impacts people so much. Eyes start watering, skin starts itching. The smell can also just impact your stomach. And so it's not very pleasant at all. And so we had this kind of shared experiences, and it brought us together to try to do something about it. Once we started our group, Singleton United, started having discussions about, well, what can we do? What are we going to do? Then came the idea of, all right, let's form a campaign. We need more attention, we need more support, we need to create awareness, we need support. And so soon after, in September of last year, we started the GAFs Gotta Go, GAF Vete Ya campaign. And as Colin mentioned, the mission is to remove the GAF asphalt shingles manufacturer from the heart of our community. Just to give you an idea of my community in West Dallas, GAF is right in the middle, and all around it you have homes. I live a few hundred feet from the facility. There's churches, there's public schools, there's daycares, the same block. There's a lake, community center, public library, shopping center. I mean, this company is massive, 32 acres, and it's right in the middle of us. So people can't really go out and enjoy the lake. You think, I'm gonna go around the lake and get some exercise in, but that's very dangerous to do so, especially when the particulate matter is super high, or the sulfur dioxide is just causing all kinds of inhalation problems. There's a lot of people in our community that have a lot of respiratory issues. People who've been there for a long time, and then also people who've just moved into the community. Suddenly they start having respiratory issues. Suddenly children start developing asthma. We're like, well, why? What's happening? And so we're kind of putting pieces together and connecting the dots. As part of our campaign, we have monitors, air monitors, around all sides of the GAF facility. And that's a way for us to understand the levels of particulate matter pollution that are in the air at any given moment. And this is available online through Purple Air, and Purple Air monitors. But looking at that is a way to see how dangerous it is at any given day, and that really informs your decision of whether or not you choose to go outside and how long. Now, knowing the connection between the pollution levels and what it does to your body, the chronic conditions that can develop, the effects to IQ, the correlation with birth defects, birth weight, you know, we're kind of woke, right? We know about this, and so it makes it even more dangerous to understand, when you understand these correlations, how long you're going to plan to spend outside, what you're going to do. You're going to cancel a party or not, because sometimes the smell is really strong. So the health impacts is really the key thing here for my community. We want to make it healthier. That's part of our Singleton United, Singleton Unidos mission. It's part of our campaign mission to really help clean up the air. And so we've really been looking at this kind of in three tracks. One is creating that community awareness, that public education about what's going on in the community and what people can do. Then there's looking ahead to taking the action of how do we get rid of this facility? How do we remove it, relocate it so it's no longer creating such a detriment to the health of the people that live in West Dallas. And so with that, and then the last piece is looking further into the future of, okay, once it's gone, what are we envisioning? What are our needs? What is it that the community needs, and what do we desire? And that involves looking at our neighborhood-led plan, recommendations that we have through there, as well as really envisioning what it can be. Because this facility has been here in my community since 1946. It's just been there in the background. We live also right next to the railroad train, so even just the passing of the trains, you know, the noises, the horns, the shaking of the house, all of that's just kind of normal to us. It's in the background. And so is GAF. You know, there's no really quiet time, because when it's quiet, I'll give you an example. The other day, it was a beautiful day outside. I was sitting on my porch, I was looking at a squirrel, because it's springtime, the green leaves are out, and I'm watching this scenery, but what I'm hearing is the forklifts from GAF, the pallets being moved, the intercoms being used. So you can imagine the mismatch there. You want to enjoy it fully, but you can't. And so, just going back to those three tracks, with the help of our campaign members, we've done a lot of outreach with the neighbors, a lot of educating about the different types of pollution. We had a Shingles Pollution 101 event just recently to talk about the manufacturing process, to talk about the pollution that gets emitted, and then what happens when you inhale this pollution. We've also informed the community about using 311 as a tool to report, to no longer stay quiet, to really use the voice and take action, to not put up with this. Whenever there's any health impacts or there's an interference with just enjoying your property. We've also had an asthma respiratory clinic in the community outside of our public library, so people can come with their kids as well as themselves to get tested to see how the lungs are doing, how much capacity the lungs can hold. So there's been a ton of door-to-door knocking, talking to neighbors, and spreading this information, but also capturing their story, which is super important. I don't think people realize the power they have in their voice and their testimonies. And so we've gone and talked to a lot of neighbors, and they've shared with us what it means to be living next to GAF, and how it's impacted their lives, their children's lives, their health. And so that's been super important for us, because it lets us know that we're not alone. It lets them know you're not alone. This is a common problem in the community. And so that's been super important to us, is hearing from our neighbors and uplifting their voices. That's been really the most incredible thing, really a part of for this journey, is creating that sense of, further creating that sense of community within the community. In terms of the amortization piece, so that's the process that we're seeking right now to help us remove this facility. And what that process is establishing that it's a non-conforming use, but that it's causing adverse impact in the community. And there's several factors that get looked into for this process to determine whether or not it's an adverse impact. Things like the characteristics of the neighborhood, whether the use is compatible or not compatible with zoning, the use of like dust or traffic disturbances. There's a lot of different things that play into creating evidence, showing evidence that this is not good for the community, and not good for the vision of what we see in our community. So not only just currently what's going on, but like thinking about the future. Like, does this facility fit in to what we want in a more vibrant, healthier West Dallas? And with that, we do have a team that's been doing a lot of research looking at the regulatory history of GAF, the zoning history of GAF. It's been pretty extensive, but we're very hopeful that we've compiled enough information to present a case for amortization. And with regards to the future vision, so again, we talk about our neighborhood-led plan. Part of that is removing the polluters. In my district, there's so many batch plants, there's so much industry. And just to give you a little bit of context with regards to Singleton United Unidos, we are actually kind of 4 discrete areas. But what separates us is the industry between us. So we have groups from Cambridge Crossing, which is part of the Dallas Housing Authority home complex. There's my area that's right next to GAF, and between GAF and a public school, which is the Thomas Edison building. Then there's GAF that separates another piece of the neighborhood with homes and also industry around it. And then it extends over past a major street, Hampton, where there's another group of people near Vilbig, Muncie. And so it seems like a big span of the neighborhood, but if you were to remove the industry in between us, we're much smaller. But we all have this in common, is that we live near industry. We live near these polluters. And these polluters continue to come into our neighborhood. And that's really unfortunate, because it continues to add to the pollution that we're living with. And so part of the vision that we wanted to, or the hope that we wanted to give people, is to think about the future, right? Because people are like, well, when our group first started, there was a lot of skepticism within the community, with people outside the community, like, what is this group going to do? You're just all talk. What are you really going to do? But it's to start thinking about the future to create hope is really important. And this is where, we'll get into it, but the coalition supporting has been just incredible. It has been super incredible, meeting different people who have access to different resources. Laura being one of them, who's been just so instrumental in the way she supported our campaign. We'll get into it in a little bit, but her students actually helped to create some future vision designs of what could be on that site once GAF is removed. And the ideas that came out of that from high schoolers, these are her high school kids. They created different projects and different concepts. And just to hear the different things that could be replaced, it's just beautiful. I mentioned the sounds of the forklifts and the pallets and the intercoms. To erase that and to change it, to have some tranquility, to hear water, maybe running water, or to hear music in an amphitheater, it's just, you know, it's really transformative. It's really like, wow, I want to hurry up and get to this piece of like, what are we going to do with this land? What's going to come in here? How is it going to benefit the children, the elderly, and the community? So there's been a lot of work, a lot of moving pieces. We're very hopeful in what we're trying to pursue here, but it's been fabulous to get a lot of support from people, even just having platforms like this and having you all come in. Super grateful for people's interest in the issues that we have and wanting to support. It's pretty meaningful to be able to get our story out, and so people are more informed about what's happening, because it's happening in my home in West Dallas, but that's not to say it's not happening anywhere else in Dallas, right? It's a matter of also people recognizing that this is something that can be done from the bottom up, grassroots, just people having the shared interest and the same enthusiasm to do something together can create something very powerful. And so there.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jamie, and bringing it back to that kind of personal element. Because this is a very personal thing, like you talked about. You can't go outside, it disrupts your daily life. So I'm curious to hear from each of y'all, what was kind of that catalyzing moment that got you engaged in environmental justice work? And we'll just go down the line.
So, I'm born and raised West Dallas. I moved out to go to college, jumped out my career, came back 2017. And soon after, I got a letter from the Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. They were doing some sort of air pollution study. Can we use your home if you have Wi-Fi to connect air monitor? I said, great, I love research, I love data, let's do it, why not? I have Wi-Fi. And so a monitor was connected outside my home. And then I didn't hear anything. And then almost like a year later, this was spring 2021, or summer 2021, they came back and gave me the report of what the monitors were showing and how the levels of particulate matter were exceeding the World Health Organization standards, the EPA standards, and I mean, I just lost it. It's like, how is this possible? How is this where I'm living? This is how my neighbors have been living all their lives here, and this is what we've been breathing. And so, of course, I'm looking at everything, the research done on particulate matter and health impacts, and I start thinking about my neighbors who passed away from some of these things that I'm reading about. And so I had at that point she was 2 years old, a daughter, a little toddler. And I have my mom who's immunocompromised, and I'm just like, whoa, this is not okay. So yeah, that was the moment that I was like, okay, thank you so much for the data, great, now what? We need to do something because this is not okay. And so that was the moment. That was the moment that just the alarms really just started going off in my head. This isn't cool, so let's take some action. So that was the moment for me.
Louise?
Well, you have 2 hours? We started in '89, so I've been doing this a little bit over. I had a lot of hair, let me put it that way, okay? Quick example, I'm walking out of my house at 2849 Bedford. To my right, it's a lead smelter. In front of me is the railroad tracks, the asbestos company. To my left is GAF Corporation. That's exactly where I'm at. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters. And we always ended up being at Dr. Cups in Grand Prairie. He came in and he would embarrass my mom saying, you're not covering these kids up. They're always sick. And instead of little cocktail, they're too big and jumbo cups. Don't have to bring the rest of the kids. Give them this. But what got me involved is I was playing with a nephew. Just playing with him, his nose started bleeding. So Mom came, and he's, okay, it's fine, he's fine. Then another month I had another nephew that was sitting in my other lap, and I was playing with him also. His nose started bleeding. Then Mom came in and says, that's the same thing that was happening with y'all guys when y'all were your nose were bleeding. I said, Mom, what's the situation? She says, well, I tried to fight GAF, and they told my father worked in GAF for 24 years. Daddy died of kidney, liver, heart, cancer. So he died it up. Dad worked in the asbestos room. And I was telling her that when Dad would work 2 weeks daytime, 2 weeks nighttime, and then they would build a trench from 12 to 6 in the morning on the side of the, if you're looking at the GAF, it would be on the east side, and they would build the trench. Now, Dad's already retired and stuff, so I'm talking to him, and I said, Dad, what was that trench, and why were you going 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night? He says, well, we were building the trench, and all the stuff from the asbestos was going down to Fish Trap Lake. For how many years, Dad? She said, probably about 12 years that I know of, that was going into Fish Trap Lake. But as I started coming in, I called a gentleman named Jim Scherbeck, and I started asking him about the environment. So he came back and told me, Luis, there's 97 industries here in West Dallas. And I said, pardon me? He said, there's 97. We got arsenic, chromium, zinc, mercury. They're even burning radiation at the lead smelter. And so I started, now I could say, I was protesting every one of those companies. Twice a week I was protesting for almost 3 years. I wore out 2 pairs of tennis shoes. But let me also tell you that this is I saw this yesterday when I was looking for the resume, I put them away. So I came in and I saw, this is from the city of Dallas. This is the lead of the African-American children in the housing projects. Over 20 is dangerous. I don't have my glasses. What does that say?
130.
130. And it's in the city of Dallas. They signed it. Now you would think that this is the only one. All these children in West Dallas, all these children. That's what got me involved. That's what got me going. I came in and I had to come in and follow. The city of Dallas, the EPA, the Minister of Mines, every city council representative, senator and stuff were all fighting me, telling me everything was good. I took it into federal court. They came in and declared it not Superfund. Now, Superfund is they got to move 6 inches of dirt. West Dallas was declared an emergency Superfund. So no one today should be living in West Dallas by the act of the EPA. So that's what got me involved in what was going on. When they were doing these tests, the individuals that were giving them to me, they brought them to me, said the city of Dallas told me not to give them to anybody. I said, thank you very much. But that's what got me involved in what's going on in West Dallas. The protest that we started bringing attention to what we were doing. I always say, if you're coming in here and you're leading and you do something and you start getting credibility, like going into the federal courts, them declaring an emergency Superfund, the city didn't know what to do. EPA didn't know. Any of the state representatives, congressmen, senators, city councils, I proved them all wrong. You see, but the biggest job that we have to do is help her. And we have to and help her. Our responsibility is when we came in and they used my name, they tried to put my picture in front, I told her, no, this is cheese leaving. I'm helping her. Talk to her. I'm not going to say anything. If you want anything, it has to be her. Because if not, they start putting a wedge between us to try to fight among us. And it's not going to happen. She's doing a terrific job. You know something? I'm going to hit 70, and I just started. But to have youth to come in, I know that West Dallas is going to be in good hands. But I admire you for taking your Saturday, and being here. Because you could be enjoying yourself out in the mall, sleeping late. But it's important that you hear this. It's important that the city of Dallas knows what in the world happened in West Dallas. And it's still happening today. I just haven't gotten around to all the 97 industries. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Louder.
I guess for me, it started with, again, I'm from Oak Cliff, so seeing all the gentrification, especially around Bishop Arts. So as I was in design school, to me it was like, how do I design spaces that are inclusive? Of course, once I graduated, I did not start designing inclusive spaces. So then I went into teaching, and to me it was like, let me use this as a pause and figure out where I want to take my design career. And then as I started at the high school in Oak Cliff at Molina, started networking and trying to come up with projects that were intentional and that were relevant to my students. You know, like, hey, we are in this area, we are in this neighborhood. There's a lot of change going. You know, what is it that we can put in our community that is for us? We need to design something that is for us. So throughout creating these projects, throughout researching, I met a lot of people, and it was a trickle-down effect, but my thing was always helping BIPOC people. You know, Black, Indigenous, people of color, that was always my intent, and all my projects surrounded around that, and with a huge lens in social justice. And then as I started meeting people, and then, you know, one person led to another. I mean, we can start with Jennifer walking into my classroom, and we had Victoria as well, you know, walking in. That led to me meeting Evelyn, to meeting Colin, to meeting Jamie, so it just, and then finding out, well, then I started working on my urban planning degree at UTA. So as all this was kind of all over my head, and, you know, these are the spaces that I'm walking into, this is the research that I'm doing. And then I found kind of how, well, you cannot design a rec center or a library in a neighborhood if the neighborhood's not safe. You know, if your environment's not safe. So the more I learned about Janie's story, and it was just like, yeah, there's no way of bringing in, I don't know, let's say an apartment building. Even though there are apartment buildings around GAF, there's Cambridge apartments, but there's no way of bringing something in here when it's so toxic, when, you know, the residents currently cannot breathe. So with my students, you know, and kind of using the campaign GAF's Gotta Go, I told all my students, you know, this is what's happening, and now I'm working at the Career Institute, which we get all the Oak Cliff high schools and West Dallas, so I do have a few Pinkston students. And I asked them, like, this is what's going on in your area. What do you think about it? And then again, just bringing awareness to them. And my intent has always been to provide a platform for them, to bring awareness. So with this project, it was like, okay, well, what do you guys reimagine this to be? And again, through us talking, through having guests, through doing research, you know, that kind of was the moment, I think, which was this past semester, to really dive in more and be like, you know what, we need to really pay attention into our environment, into the air that we're breathing, to the water that is, you know, running through the system of the city. So before anything like what my students propose can be built, we need to clean up, you know, our physical environment. I think that, you know, again, it's been a journey, as cliche as that may sound, but I am very thankful for all the people that I've met who have, like, I've been learning so much, and I appreciate all those conversations and the time that they've given me and the time that they've given to my students. And I hope that with all these efforts, you know, Jamie will reach her goal with all our support, and then hopefully our students, you know, especially since Thomas Edison is right there next to GAF, hopefully in the next few years they don't have to go through that. And we really do have a reimagined West Dallas.
Thank you. So a theme that I kept kind of hearing through all of your answers is this importance of people. And this is not just a one-person deal. It takes a lot of people. You can see in the photo there, it's a lot of people behind the scenes. So I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about the importance of building a coalition for these kinds of fights, both for GAF and for the RSR lead smelter in the 90s, and kind of what that looks like and how important that is to kind of getting to the end goal. We'll start with Jamie.
Yeah, it's really important to create awareness, spread the message, but also tap into resources and connections, because it only helps. The more you get, the more information that you can receive, you can make informed decisions, inform your strategy. But support from all levels, honestly, support from our elected officials is key. Getting some other time, and fortunately we've been able to do that through the campaign, talking to our Congressman Mark Vesey, Congresswoman Influence Johnson, Senator Royce West, and our state rep Jasmine Crockett, is super supportive. But getting on their radar and getting their support has been meaningful. They've helped us, some of them have helped us with the data that we've been collecting to build that case for amortization. There's also, I mean, the key, right, is more so my neighbors, the neighbors in the community, because without their voices, we can't make traction. Their voices are very key. Their involvement is key, and that aspect of it has been super important to me because this can be draining. Lots of meetings, lots of work. But they provide the fuel, they really do. So having neighbors supportive, opening their doors, welcoming us, that's huge because people talk and you share this information, you share stories, and it helps with creating that exposure that's needed, and the hope in the community. And for our campaign, there's lots of organizations who have joined our campaign to support, and each organization has brought its strengths, its connections. Downwinders at Risk supports so much through strategy, through printing. We do a lot of flyering, door to door in the community, and they've always been there for us to help us in that aspect as well, connecting us to key people to inform, to build our case for amortization. There's people who support in all kinds of different ways, joining us at EPA meetings. Victoria's in the room here. Joining us in EPA meetings and lending their voice to say why they're supporting the campaign is super important. Having support from all around is super beneficial. It creates traction, awareness. There's social media, right? Climate Reality has been fantastic. They joined not too long ago, and they've been super supportive with spreading word through social media and using their platform for us. And that's helpful as well. Even just we talk about the press. Anytime that there's interest in writing about our campaign, again, that creates awareness, creates exposure, and lets people know that this is important and this is a fight that you can join. So even that, in that sense, all that support matters, and it's super helpful to create the traction that we need.
Yeah. Luis, was that a similar case in the 90s? Probably without social media, though.
Yeah, it was really, really different. REBA was a member that I came in to visit because there was a lot of ramps, and they told me that they'd go visit. So I went by and I was at REBA. REBA had both legs amputated, right breast removed. And so I talked to her and I just had a chat with her. Then she came in, talked to so-and-so across the street. And so I knocked on the door. She was looking at the ceiling, refused to look at me. And I'm saying, ma'am, did I come at the wrong time or offend you? She says, no, I'm blind, and so I'm looking at the ceiling. But Mr. Lewis, I said, yeah, Reba told me you were coming. So what I started doing is I told Reba said, I want to help you in any way, in any place I can do. I said, can you call people? I've got a phone. So I gave her a list. Anytime I was protesting stuff, I would give her a list and call her, I need for you to call some people. So I gave her a list of 100, and that in 2 days we're going to have a protest. He would get me 50 people. Then she came in, met the Posies. She said, well, go talk to the Posies. Leave one there for them too. They're going to do some calling for you too. Reba started from that phone. I would just call her and tell her, Reba, I'm having a protest. I got it, Mr. Lewis. Now, when they were going to the protest, some of them would say, you know, Reba called me at 4 o'clock in the morning. She would call, she would just keep going. She would just tremendously keep going. But you also have to worry about the wedges. People come in and put people in there to separate. The Bank sisters are the ones that were very famous with us because they come in and all 4 of them would go into the community in the meetings to meet everybody. So they would come in and says, Mr. Lewis, this person's talking really bad about us and the organization. He said, we got them to the side and told them not to come back anymore. They had to do that, to come in because they were putting the wedge that who am I? You know, I'm a Mexican American and the group is 87% African Americans. Never had any problems with the African Americans. I had problems with the ministerial lines because they were wanting to get, EPA made a deal with them that they were going to come in and clean up the area, and the members from your church are going to get $25 an hour. Think about it. Sign off here to do the cleanup, and they did. And I told them, please don't do that. That's not the thing to do for West Dallas. Please, you're gonna hurt us. So they went ahead and signed off, and they started cleaning. They brought all these people from Atlanta. I get a call from the ministerial lines at my home. It says, Mr. Lewis, we need your help. I said, what can I do for you? And she says, well, I said, I can already tell you what happened. You know those $25 an hour jobs? You know they have to be certified for 2 years before they get the jobs. So none of them were able to get any of the jobs, but they went ahead and signed on to it. I told them you have to really read and see what their intentions are in our community. Senators and congressmen and stuff, none of them would help us. You know who the worst were? My people, Latinos. They came after me like crazy. Unbelievable. I had a gentleman named Henry Martinez came up from the Ledbetter and asked, Luis, you know, you got all these Mexican leaders all upset. And I said, well, why, Henry? He said, well, you're all over the news. They're not there. So I told him, I'm going to have a protest this afternoon. Tell them to come on. So they came. They were there with the little porches and stuff on it. They came, though. I told them, the press comes, you can talk to them. I'm going to get to the side. They were there 15 minutes. They were gone. I was there 2 hours. Henry Martinez was there with me 2 hours. When the press comes, Henry, you talk to him. And he said, I was used big time, Mr. Sepulveda. I said, that's okay, Henry. They'll pay on their own. But as long as your heart's in the right intention, we're doing the right thing. So I saw all the wedges and stuff that was going on. Why the senators and congressmen? Well, they thought I was going to go after their positions. I had to go on front and front with Eddie Bernice Johnson. Her deal was that we had about 3,000 people at the center. She came in and told me that, Mr. Sepulveda, I don't fear you. And she was surrounded by 12 officers. And I told her, I don't want you to fear me. I want you to do something. That's all I want you to do. And then I also told her that you really need to come around a lot because I've never seen so many police officers in West Dallas. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I want to shift gears just a little bit. Laura, you provide a unique gift to the campaign, particularly for community meetings and things like that. Can you talk about the importance to making material and resources accessible to everyone who may be a part of the campaign?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely, kind of piggybacking on what they were saying and unifying, or, you know, there are wedges, and I think there will always be wedges. And I think even though as much as I want to see more of this unity between like the Black and the Hispanic community, it is hard. And it's hard to witness this, like seeing it like in person, or, you know, there are many examples as to why there is this wedge between these two communities. And they have the same cause. And I think a lot of it goes to language. and that a lot of the material or meetings or pamphlets, whatever you want to say, like it's not really that accessible in their language, or sometimes it is very intimidating for Latino families to walk into these spaces. And I think it even goes back into some of these families have a mixed status. You know, they're a mixed status family and there is fear. As far like they don't want to go into these meetings or they don't want to participate because of what may happen to their families. So I think what I really appreciate about Singleton United is the fact that it's been very bilingual. A lot of the information has been in Spanish and in English. I've tried my best to translate, and it's
done an amazing job translating.
Yeah.
The last meeting was, yeah, it hurt my brain a little, but I really do appreciate the fact that they are doing this, because sometimes I think of my parents, you know, if they were to be living in West Dallas, I know, like, I think of my mom, I don't think my mom would have felt that comfortable going. It's because, and one thing will be, well, she doesn't understand. You know, she may be curious, but she does not understand what is going on. So the fact that a lot of, most recently we have, you know, we have Rayo, we have Singleton United who are really pushing to make information accessible. I think it's like, it's remarkable and I'm so happy. I wish the city of Dallas will actually lead with that as well, and that all of the information that the city is putting, including meetings, can somehow be translated live, you know. I mean, they have the technology, they do have the resources. And I really do feel that a lot of the information, not only in Spanish, I mean, we can go throughout, you know, Dallas County and Tarrant County. There's a lot of languages being spoken, and whatever community you're going to, there's another language being spoken in that neighborhood. Then let's try to translate, either live or having all this information accessible in their language, because that will really unify all the community members, because we are, you know, there is a mix, you know, Dallas is very segregated, but even, you know, in South Dallas, we do have a huge population of, you know, Latinos and African Americans living together. So one way of unifying them is at least making the spaces accessible and sharing a language. You know, and that's just translating.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the big question. You know, why does this matter? Why should we care about environmental justice in West Dallas?
We should care because it's literally people's lives. It's people's health. It's families. It's the growth of families. There's all kinds of things tangled into that, right? You're talking about a low-income community, especially in West Dallas. You get sick, there's medical bills. Those are high cost. Sometimes so high cost that people avoid going to the doctor because of that. You know, so the more that we can do to help people live, breathe clean air, the better. This is all about human experiences. This is somebody's mom, dad, grandma, nephew, niece, baby. And so that's why it matters, because these are people's lives.
It's you. It's your life.
Right.
Yeah.
The only way I can sum it up is Dad had heart problem, Mother had heart problem. I had a quadruple done in 2017 and had cancer in 2017. My brother Roland, just last year, had heart surgery. I had a quadruple bypass. He had a three heart pass. My brother Ray is now having heart problems. My brother Junior is also having heart problems. So we can start seeing what the pattern is, that if we don't take care of it then, you're going to take care of it now. You know, to have that many in one family is just unbelievable. And I do have two sisters that they won't discuss it with me, and I understand. That's their mom mentioned that one of them did, but I don't know if both of them or just one of them had. But if we don't do it now, it's going to get us later. It's one way or another. I remember somebody from KRLD, I was in a radio talk show, KRLD, somebody from KRLD called, he was a radio personality. And we were talking about the Superfund. It was in West Dallas, 16-mile radius. It went to Trinity River, down to Loop 12, back to Davis, Fort Worth Avenue, and then came back. And the gentleman said that he lived on that side of Fort Worth Avenue. So he says, well, I'm safe, it doesn't go that far. I said, yes, it does. They gave me a 16-mile radius, but when that wind blows, you've seen the wind blow, I assure you, it's going to your home. He kept trying me, telling me no. I'm just telling you the facts, that's all I can tell you.
So before we open it up for some questions from the audience, so be thinking, what are the ways people can get involved if we don't live in West Dallas? What are the ways we can get involved with the GAFs Gotta Go campaign?
Help with spreading the word, social media, spreading the word, talking about this, letting it be known, to taking action. If you ever visit West Dallas and you encounter yourself in our neighborhood and you see the emissions going full blast from the GAF company, or you encounter a health impact, or you smell something that you know you shouldn't be inhaling. Remember, our Shingles Pollution 101 event, we had a toxicologist talk about the impacts of inhaling the pollution. And she said, with sulfur dioxide, like when you smell it, the fact that you can smell it, that it's registering in your body, that you can smell it, that means it's already in your lungs. And that stayed with me. So when that happens, there's 311 as a tool. You don't have to be from the neighborhood. You can report and support in that way and say, hey, I'm here, this is what I'm experiencing, and report it in. There's also, I talked about earlier about the amortization that we're pursuing. And just to give you a little bit more context of that, there's 2 tracks to do amortization. It's a citizen-led track. The citizen can submit the application to the Board of Adjustments at City, for the City of Dallas to start this process, or it can come from the City of Dallas itself. And we're hoping that the City of Dallas, through our City Council, can particularly our Councilman, Omar Narvaez, can champion this for us, this route. When that happens, people can call in to support, and call your City Councilman wherever you live. Say, hey, we support this, vote for this to go through, because this is important to the community and the reasons why. So that's another way, is to contact your local council person to support our campaign, support our mission and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of votes to get that passed through council, doesn't it?
Right. It takes a lot of votes to get that passed through council. Yeah. So those are some key ways to help there. There's also wanting to be part of the campaign. Always take volunteers, phone banking flyers, helping us go door to door, talking to people. We always welcome that as well. But there's smaller things at that level that people that want to volunteer can help. But really, it's those key things is helping us spread awareness and really taking action and supporting. And like I said, reporting as well if you're in the community and you experience something yourself.
We don't have to make those phone calls at 4 a.m., do we?
No.
Okay, good. All right, well, I'd like to open it up.
One more.
Yeah,
Actually,
go ahead.
one more. This kind of ties into the other track at the conference, the zoning track. There's also, there's a lot of meetings that happen with the City of Dallas regarding zoning, especially when things like batch plants pop up again, and there's public hearings against these situations. That's another opportunity, is to support in that sense. Of course, it takes knowing about when this is happening, but attending these meetings or attending these meetings to speak, the public comments portion of it, or sending in your written comments against or supporting, say, for example, our campaign, or against the polluters that are trying to come in. That's very helpful too. It's another way to really use your voice and put it on public record that you are for or against something. So that's also very critical too. The more people that speak up, the better it is, because appropriate authorities take notice of that. So just want to put that in as well.
All right, well, we'll open it up for questions. If you have a question, please come up to one of the mics here. If there are no questions, I will selfishly ask more of my own questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple of quick questions, and I apologize if this has already been covered because I came in late. Have there been any deep dive economic studies of, the economic cost to both the city, county, and to individual families as a result of the illnesses, property values, things like that, to actually reflect dollar loss? And secondly, has there been any study of any kind of technology that would help GAF capture more of their emissions so there was actually less in the atmosphere?
Yeah, so as part of our gathering evidence for amortization, we have looked into the economical impact of having this facility for so long in my community, what that does to, when you want to get a home loan, for example, what that does to the value of the properties. And so that is information that we have been researching and compiling together, and especially when you compare it to other neighborhoods, more affluent neighborhoods, what that looks like, what that comparison looks like. So we do, yeah, so yes, we have been looking into that. Your other question was regarding technology. So yeah, there's technology that companies can use to greatly reduce emissions. I'll give you an example of GAF specifically. So GAF in West Dallas, when you look at the amounts of tons per year of sulfur dioxide that they emit into the air, it's about 128 tons per year. And this is my community. But when you look at the facility out in Ennis, which is state-of-the-art, great technology, it's, I believe, like 78% white community. Their emissions for sulfur dioxide is 0.125 tons per year. That's a huge difference. That is environmental racism right there. That's the picture for that. So there is technology, but GAF will not install new technology. And so we actually had a public...
What's their argument against upgrading this particular facility?
Their argument is that they don't have to. So this facility is considered like a grandfathered-in facility. They don't have to. There's regulatory loopholes that allow them to continue operating as is with their permits. So
Because of their age.
right, because of their age.
Well, they use an excuse that we were there before the community.
So there was a public hearing back in the summer, last summer. This had to do with the Title V air permit that they were applying to. So there was a public hearing about that, and GAF leadership was part of that. And they were pretty adamant that they're good neighbors, that they're in compliance, and that there is no need for this technology.
Any other questions?
Okay. This mic.
Really good job, guys. I just wanted to ask, so you spoke, Janie, a little bit about the zoning laws and why they're important. Can you kind of expand a little bit on the zoning that is in effect around GAF and kind of why that's important to your cause?
Yeah. So there's a lot of mixed zoning going on in my community. So I'll give you an example. When a house is, say, demolished, and it needs to be or greatly repaired or just demolished, people, you can't rebuild a house because it's zoned commercial in some areas. It's zoned commercial. Like my house, my mom's house, it's not considered residential, but we've lived there for years and years and years, and we pay the bills. So there's mixed things there. So there's like incompatible uses for zoning. GAF is clearly adjacent to residential community. And so there are things in place that, you know, there are things in place that kind of should be prohibiting that from happening. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of, let me give you some so in 1987, the city of Dallas underwent this, it was called the Dallas Transformational Zoning, I think that's what it's called. And it was a big zoning citywide in the city. And there are rules in place of what the zoning changes that had to be based on the location of facilities, of properties. And so even back then, GAF should have not, because of the way the zoning was working, because it was next to a residential area, it should not have gotten the, it should not have been allowed to stay because they're heavy industry, they're manufacturing. But the zoning where they're at right now is actually industrial research. So there's like a mix there. So zoning does matter. Zoning does matter. So like I said, even with the residents, a lot of like, because it's not zoned residential, families, the buildings, some of the buildings have been like broken down, they had to get removed, but they're not replaced. So our families just get plucked out. Each demolition, families get plucked out with no way of helping the families come back in. We've lost tons of families in our little area of West Dallas, in my little, just 2 blocks, because of this. And so, because some of these areas are commercial or industrial land plots, then those types of facilities can come in. So as opposed to having those houses with families, there's now businesses. There's some with very light industry uses, some heavier. Luis was talking earlier about the asbestos facility. That's also in a 2-block walking distance from my house, where it used to be, and now it's a batch plant. Right, it's a batch plant. And so, like I said, there's a lot of mixed zoning just in that area, and so it doesn't fit the use of what that zoning is for.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, you can come.
I just want. Hi, Louis. My name is Linda Bates. I'm a particle of West Dallas. I grew up when my mama closed down the lead smith at RSR back in the 70s and 80s when March. I marched with you also, Louis. Before they built the 7-Eleven out there on Westmoreland, we took up a lot of samples. The samples were so high. But they still built it with no permit. We took pictures, everything, so. But my thing is, half of the people out there done died, except me, my family, a couple more families. We've Hopkins family died from lead cancer. I done accumulated cancer. I had been in the hospital this week for heart something, but I don't give up because God is the key to this thing. So I want to know what can be done to compensate these people. These people are sick. I'm sick. My mama closed the smelter down. Fred Barron paid people in the projects, and I didn't get nothing. But my daughter had the highest level of lead. She had 279 points per million, whatever they were to say. My sister, who is mentally ill, she had a high level of lead. Now, we grew up with no expectation of living because we stayed in the doctors, we couldn't go to school, we took antibiotics all our life, cough syrup, and different kinds of stuff. But what happens now with our health, because I had cancer twice, I got 17 grandkids and 1 great-grandkid, so I know God not through with me yet. So we need help with the people that is left in West Dallas. We march from one end, because it's all kinds of chemical companies in West Dallas. It's the Brick Company, Cement Company, W.R. Grace, which we went to Edison, and the smoke, we go on the playground, the smoke fall down. So my doctor asked me the other day, how long you been smoking? I told him I've been smoking all my life. How many packs? I said, it wasn't no pack. It was a lot of contamination. I'm talking about 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we ain't never had no justice. And we've been seeking justice for years. And all I want to know, how can we get these people some kind of compensation for the loss of their parents, their brothers, their sisters, and their family? These people have lost everybody. My mama died. My grandfather worked at GAF and the W.R. Grace. That was the only jobs they could get. So they brought the stuff home. We had to dig the stuff out of their shoes. Now what's left is us. And our bodies just, I want to say, the after effect of lead is tremendous, because you don't know what you're going to wake up with from the next day. You have cancer this day, you might have arthritis this day. You wake up every day. You go from A, B to Z. So we need to find out something to help these people, to help us live a normal life. A life has been damaged because of the contaminants. They say lead, it wasn't only lead. It was cadmium, lead, arsenic, all kinds of other chemicals they found out there. But at the same time, we don't have a right to breathe. COPD took over my life 6 years ago. I'm still going, by the grace of God. But they sit up, have all these meetings, but the people don't even know about the meeting. I happen to get it through my email. I rushed down here this morning. I've been in the hospital ever since Wednesday. I got out Wednesday, and I said I was coming. And I'm here today to find some kind of help and support for the people in West Dallas today.
Thank you for sharing that.
My name is William Harper. Louis, the Dallas Morning News came out in 2012, and they did a study of the soil in West Dallas. They tested my mother's yard, they tested Linda Bates' yard, and they went around Edison and around the area, and they found the high level of lead. This was December the 16th, the 17th, and the 18th of 2012. The Dallas Morning News came out, and they paid people to test the soil in West Dallas. And throughout West Dallas, they found the heavy amount of lead. I was trying to get the EPA to come out to try to see if that's true, Louis. The testing that the Dallas Morning News did, and I couldn't get nobody from the city or the EPA to come out and test to see if that's true what the Dallas Morning News test results was. So we just still there. I guess it's been about 10 years, and nobody came, Louis. Nobody came to even test to see if it was true, the testing that the Dallas Morning News did. But what I have in my hand, Louis, I want to give you this. This is a letter from the city informing the people that they weren't involved in the lead. They were between some attorneys, and the city wasn't involved. This was this letter from the city, Louis gave me. You turn to the second page, Louis. I'm gonna give you this. This is a lawsuit where the city of Dallas and the state of Texas sued the RSR lead plant and got the money. This was in '83, Louis, October 1983. The city of Dallas sued, already got the money, been having the money, Louis, since 1983. So I don't know what y'all doing here in this meeting, or really what's going on. The city probably gonna come, they got some kind of environmental. Well, Lewis, I wanna give you a copy of this. This is where the city already sued, already have the money, and been having the money, Lewis, since 1983. I wanna give you.
Yeah, please. I don't know anything about it, but, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
But a lot of people don't know Mr. Hopkins. I know him very well. He had been going to the city council over and over and over, bringing the problems of the lead contamination. And I believe, Mr. Hopkins, you can't even go to the city council now? They banned you from not speaking, not going anymore?
They voted one time a month. I can't go every week no more. I gotta go one time a month.
Already.
See how they came in and tried to, but Mr. Hopkins, I was wanting to, and I can show these, but these are the tests that were done by the city of Dallas. Children, African-American children that had high lead tests, they're supposed to have 20. This was 130, and it's just not one. Look at all these. The city has not gone back to talk to them. The city has not made any contact with them.
Is they still alive?
They've done everything they can to hide what's going on in West Dallas. I've even talked to attorneys to try to get the case to go here. Guess what?
Nobody.
They tell them that I'm crazy. There's no lead in West Dallas. Even though it's been declared 16 miles in a federal court from Judge Buckmeyer.
So what do we do, Lewis?
Good. Hey, if I had a situation, maybe I would have already done it. But the only thing that I can do is keep bringing it up. Keep bringing it up. We talked about what we could do. Massive letters to the mayor of Dallas, telling them what's been on and how they've been treating the people of West Dallas all these years.
I've been talking to him every month.
I want to say thank you, Linda, for speaking. Because earlier the question was, why does it matter? This is exactly why it matters.
Yep. That's why it matters.
Was there not a settlement of some kind of a trust fund created back in the day? I had a friend that grew up in West Dallas.
I'm in the impression that there were three settlements. One from Fred Barron, one from somewhere in Houston, and one from a little town somewhere.
But it was only for kids only.
Well, Fred Barron came in.
It was not for the adults.
Right.
If you was 17 and up, you did not get $1.
Right.
If you was under 17, they set up annuity funds through Merrill Lynch, and they gave the kids so much money a month. They couldn't get all their money because each kid was supposed to get like $1 million. They broke it down into payments and annuities. So they still wasn't treated right. And right now, I got one that was the highest level lead living at my house right now with mental issues.
You know what they did in those annuities? What they did is the insurance company, that insurance company, sold it to this insurance company.
Yep.
And if they were getting $5,000, you're only going to get $250. Guess what? If you say anything, you won't even get the $250.
They put the parents on a gag order. So if you're on a gag order, it means that you can't tell the next 5 people next door to you of what's going on. Because my mama was one of the ones that closed down the smelter. She went to Washington, she went to the Capitol. She's dead. Right now today, she's dead. But at the same time, they paid neighbors. If you go to the boys club, you sign up for this.
Don't tell nobody.
Don't tell nobody. Your friends or nothing can't know. I didn't understand that. They got a judge, a lawyer, and a judge that had retired to come settle the case.
This is the lawsuit of when the city sued and got the money. They gave the money to the lawyers and John Wiley Price to have the people to come to the boys club, don't tell nobody, and get thousands and thousands of dollars.
And half of the people didn't even go to school out there.
Didn't even live in West
They named after my mama marched and closed down the smelter, they named the lawsuit after Ella Mae Wells, whose kids did not go to Pinkston or Amelia Hall or Sequoia. They came from California and got the money because they owned a business in West Dallas. That's the way they did it.
You sign up with the ministers.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in West Dallas.
They bring their kids from California.
And your kids can get money.
And they got plenty of money. David Wells and all that.
And the minister get the kids money.
They paid the people that's with the money, like churches.
I guess, what I'm questioning, there's a paper trail, a pretty rich paper trail.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this has been at least 40 years
30,
since we've had
35,
these
35
something like that.
Yeah.
So, gag orders and all that stuff back in the 1980s, those people that
70s,
received money,
70s.
they're in their 40s now, probably.
Yeah, my
30s and
daughter's
40s.
43.
It may be time to take the cap off that and for people to actually start commenting on what actually happened with them, the money they got, what they signed, who was involved with it, all of these things, so that you start building a case for the history of
The only thing is they were put under a gag order where they could not talk.
What I'm saying is, after 35 to 40 years, gag orders don't hold the same power.
Yeah,
those people can talk today.
It wasn't really a gag.
Yes, it was.
No. It's just
My mama was
that was just something they made up. They made that up.
You asked what you can do. That's your question to this panel.
Right.
And I didn't get no response from them. But my name is Tamika Durrell and I live in Joppy. And listening to y'all story is very heart aching to me. I want to cry. And you standing up there saying you was in the hospital last week and you have cancer. That is so sad. So this is my suggestion to you. Sue the city.
But you gotta find a lawyer. Ain't no lawyer in the state of Texas gonna fight.
Believe in your God that you spoke of, believe in him. And at this event right here, you're gonna meet a lot of people. And you never know, and these people in this room listening to your story, stay around, talk to them, ask them who they know and who they can introduce you to.
Right.
Because that's what it's gonna take.
That's what it's gonna take.
And I feel your pain, like you said, you didn't know nothing about this meeting. Living in it, even in my own community of Joppy, it's hard to keep track of who fighting who. We got organizations come to our community, organizing and leaving the community out, won't let the community be on the committees and all of this.
Yep.
So my suggestion is to you, stay around, talk to people, and ask people. This lady might know a lawyer, environmental lawyer. And I'm gonna tell you like this, go to North Texas Legal Aid. They help me fight my issue. And if you want to, I can give you my information and I will take you to Texas Legal Aid, to the lawyers that help you fight these issues.
I'm
to
not
sue
just
the
fighting
city.
for me. I want to fight
Yes,
for my
and I lived in West Dallas on Morris Street
I lived on
in the 80s.
Yeah.
I lived there. I lived next door to the Sharpers, if y'all know them.
That plant was running. when
I'm
you
gonna say I lived in the smelter because the smelter sit across the street from me. So I lived in the smelter. I see how the people that live on the outskirts back behind me, some of their kids was born with no eyes, no arms, and people's feet. But I lived in the smelter. That's why I know God, he's trying to do something with me so I can get the community that's left. Because most of them dying out for cancer or they got to get dialysis because the kidney failure. Because this contamination, it creates all kinds of ailments to your body. It gives you stuff that they say you got from smoking cigarettes. No, you didn't. You didn't get this from smoking. It's like they know they put it on something else, but it's not. It's because the chemical breakdown in our bodies. It's real. I mean, it's strange to me because I fought this thyroid cancer. I fought this stomach cancer. Now they coming up with a heart problem. I'm not gonna go for that. I'm not taking all them drugs. I'm gonna just live for God, and He gonna show me the way through it. Cause it's 1 million people that done died in West Dallas. His whole family members. I mean, mama, dad, his sister, brother, another sister, cancer. I've been with him 30 years and I've seen how cancer do. His dog, died from cancer from in the yard. So this contamination has destroyed our community and our bodies. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We need help.
Yes, and I'm gonna stick around and give you my information because North Texas Legal Aid can be the lawyer. They have environmental lawyers there and they will help you. So let me give you my information and I will help you get them connections. And North Texas Legal Aid do it for free. And with all this documentation Mr. Lewis have, y'all have, take all that to them and retain the lawyer.
Need one.
Thank you.
And that is a great way. Thank you for, let's hear a round of applause for that. And you're right, Jane. This hits home exactly how important this is. These are people's lives. These are families that are destroyed because time and time again, West Dallas, Luis, as you call it, Waste Dallas, is just the dumping ground for Dallas. And these lives, these families, these stories are so important. And so while you're here today, make connections with people. We are all in this struggle together. If nobody can breathe in this city, or if one group can't breathe in this city, none of us can breathe. And none of us should go to sleep at night knowing that people that are living in West Dallas cannot breathe and have lead and are having their families destroyed. So thank y'all for being here today, and let's keep rolling.
Thank you.